All right, so I guess you can lead off and then I'll follow along.
Very good. So welcome again, all the devotees, to our regular podcast. Today we have a very special occasion. First of all, I remember our beloved Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj and Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, praying for their profuse blessings. I would like to share with all of you that this evening, for us it is evening, we are in Ullasa in Vrindavan, and we are very fortunate that we have Sriman Bhudhara Prabhu with us this evening, who is one of the early devotees joining ISKCON in Boston at the age of 17 years. And he has been throughout his whole life fully engaged in the activities of the society and family of Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, the family of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is what we are very happy about, that we have a beautiful family, and I consider Bhudhara Prabhu one of my very best and very intimate friends and well-wishers. And I know that all over the world, the devotee family, they all have a great appreciation for Sri Bhudhara Prabhu. I also know that our Gurudev was very fond of him and saw so many good qualities in him. This evening, we like to hear from our Bhudhara Prabhu about his experience with Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, which always connects us with Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. I would like to invite him to share with us the most prominent impression that he has received from his Gurudevs. Also, I would like to inform the audience, the listeners and viewers, that this evening we will also hear from Sriman Bhudhara Prabhu about his relationship with our Sriman Yashodananda Prabhu, who left his body about a week ago from now, who was very dear to us and is still very dear to us, of course. He hasn't left our hearts at all. Rather, he has become more beautifully situated there. And Sriman Bhudhara Prabhu has been very intimately connected with Yashodananda Prabhu from beginning of his journey in Krishna consciousness. And we all remember how our Yashodananda Prabhu was always full of positive energy, full of commitment, determination, always seeing the hand of Gurudev, especially the blessings of Sri Nityananda Prabhu in all the things that he experienced, both internally and externally. And I know that Buddha Prabhu has been very instrumental in his taking shelter with Srila Prabhupada and especially with Srila Gurudev, taking initiation from him. So this evening we will be very fortunate to hear from our Buddha Prabhu about his beautiful, and very heartfelt memory of the impressions that he received from Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, and his memory of our Sriman Yashodananda Prabhu. I would like to give the floor, or whatever the space, the seat to our Buddha Prabhu and invite him to please share with us what is the, I would say, the wealth. Yeah, he sometimes shared with us that when he met our beloved Gurudev, he said, "Now I have won the jackpot 2 times in my life." Yeah, this is what I remember and many other things, but I'm sure he will share that with us, yeah, this evening. Buddha Prabhu, please, yeah, go ahead and
Well, Dandavats to all devotees, Vanchakalpatubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhyavacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. It's a big topic, both of the topics, about Gurudev and certainly also about Yashodananda Prabhu. I'm curious, do I have some kind of reasonable time limit I should be thinking about here, or you'll stop me when it's time to stop, I think.
I think we have no time limit. If whatever we cannot finish today, we can do the next time. You
Yeah,
know,
okay, that's great.
I like to just make you feel comfortable and whatever. Just the fact that we mentioned these two beautiful, what to speak, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, and their devout, follower and student, Yashodananda Prabhu, that is already a beautiful, I would say, a very beautiful message to our audience. And we will, if we cannot do it in one episode or one setting, then we continue the next setting. No harm at all. We have all the time in the world. Yeah, not a second longer. Yeah, so please feel comfortable.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, I ask because when it comes to Srila Gurudev, if you begin to enumerate all of his virtues and memorable qualities, you need a long time, I think. So many to think of. And when you sent me the question, what is the most prominent impression I received with Srila Gurudev? I mean, there are probably at least a dozen or more, but I'll go right to the essence, I think, of what I witnessed, which was his ability to uniquely touch the lives of every individual that he came in touch with. He was, and I could say still is doing that. Um, I think that when we first started traveling with Srila Gurudev, it was a new thing, and different devotees were coming at different times and meeting with him, and one by one, almost without fail. Um, Maybe it took a little bit of time in some cases, but one by one, without fail, he was able to um, create a strong, intimate, personal association with the person. Um, Everyone felt uniquely seen by Gurudev. Um, he had an amazing memory. He could remember everybody's name, which I found already superhuman. Hundreds and hundreds of persons, one after the other. He would remember their names and their qualities and their family members and where they're from and what their business was and who their guru was and so on and so on. So I think that um, that one really strikes me as being the most memorable because it was what was needed at the time. Um, I feel that looking back on it, remembering the history of things as I experienced them, that there were many devotees who were looking for some inspiration and some shelter. Um, there were various opportunities for that elsewhere. But in many cases, many of the devotees that I worked with um, expressed the need for a deeper connection with a sadhu, a holy person who could really inspire them in their Krishna consciousness and show them the way and how to advance more more successfully in their Krishna consciousness. In some cases, many devotees were still there. They were still practicing, but maybe not to the same enthusiastic level that they had previously practiced. In some cases, the practice had dwindled to not very much. And so there was a kind of a dearth of positive support going on. And I'm not saying that in to diminish all the wonderful efforts that go on in the Vaishnava community on a worldwide basis. But at least I can say that the people that I knew at the time were really eager and hankering for um, some association that would spark their spiritual life. And when Gurudev came, he really was that. Aside from being a very attractive, and I would actually describe him as a visually attractive person. Um, I'll probably describe him in ways that are not appropriate for describing a guru or a sadhu, but he's very handsome. Has beautiful uh, cornflower blue eyes that are quite striking. Um, his laugh and his smile were very infectious. His gentle manner, especially, was appealing and attractive, and in some cases, even disarming. So he could put you at ease just by being in his presence. And he could even talk about really difficult subjects in a way that, difficult as they were, because he was saying that, because he was the one doing the talking, it all seemed very, very palatable. I remember bringing Alice and Richard Matskin, friends of ours and friends of Brajesh and Krishna Bhamini's, to see Gurudev in Badger. So we were in Gurudev's room, and they came in, and we sat them right in front of Gurudev. They sat on the floor, and without missing a beat, Gurudev starts off the conversation by he leans forward in a very gentle way, and he says, "You know you're going to die, and it won't be long." And I went, "Wow." I, I thought that was quite an arresting statement when you first meet somebody. But Alice and Richard, being who they were or who they are, they just went along with it, and they said, "Yes, Gurudev, we know that, and we're trying to be ready for it." And then what started was a really beautiful conversation that, and I'm giving them as an example for the effect that Gurudev had on them. They said that they left the room after about a 25-minute conversation with him, and they went off and found a place on the lawn in Badger, and they laid down on the lawn, face down on the earth, and they said that they cried all afternoon. And they said it was one of the most impressive experiences that they had. So regardless of who you were, regardless of your background, your affiliations, your temperament, or whatever, Srila Gurudev had this amazing, magical way of really appealing to you. Sometimes people would come with some, I don't know if animosity is probably not the right word, but some challenge, you know, who are you? Where do you come from? What do you want? What do you want to do here? Um, and I remember how Gurudev so expertly warmed everybody's heart and won everybody over. And I think that I'm picking this quality out because um, because it was so genuine. It wasn't a studied way of being a public figure or saying pleasant things to people and getting them on your side. Gurudev genuinely demonstrated an interest in the soul of the person. And everybody who met with him really felt that. Oh, he actually really cares about me. Um, and any number of people that I've talked with after the fact have said that they felt that for the first time in their life, Srila Gurudev had actually looked at them in a way that they felt seen, not just looked at, but actually seen, that they felt a connection to him in a way where something that was dormant within them, some sleeping awareness of their self, of their own soul, was awakened when Gurudev would look at them and speak to them. And I think that that, more than anything, was maybe the most influential reason why Gurudev touched so many people's lives. So that's my most prominent impression of Gurudev. But I mean, we could go on for a long time and talk about so many others that are related to it, but I'll leave it at that for now, unless you want to go further in the conversation.
Yeah, I would like to hear from you. The first time I remember that Srila Gurudev came to your ashram, that time you were living in Bath,
Mm,
and then he asked you some very like some very uh yeah, very sweet question. I remember in a very sweet tonation he asked you, I heard you are expert astrologer. Yeah. And then you replied to him that no, 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 I am usually you are the astrologer, Gurudev. And then Gurudev said, no, no, I have heard. I want you to see what you see in the future. And
mm,
then you get some answer, which I never forget. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you mentioned that after Gurudev insisted that please look what is going to be the future. So after some time, you came back and you checked different aspects, the timing, and when the question was asked, and everything what you knew or what you could gather from Srila Gurudev's personality, his rasi, whatever the terminology is in astrology. And then you said, I see a very amazing future. I see that you will create a influence upon the worldwide devotee community, not which has not happened before, which is going to be very special. And of course, we all were at that time uh, very much identifying with the greatness of the um mercy and the profound impact of the mercy that Srila Prabhupada has brought to the West. So to hear from someone like you that there will be a amazing special effect upon the worldwide spiritual family, I remember that, and I would like to hear if you would share something. What did you see, or what in retrospect, what would you say at this moment? What would be the special contribution that Srila Gurudev has given to the worldwide
mm.
Bodhi family?
Well, I'll answer that with a little bit of short storytelling to give some context, and then I'll get into the detail. Um, as it goes, one time I was in Vrindavan, and um, I became inspired to take darshan of Vrinda Devi, and I asked, uh, "Is there a Vrinda Devi Murti deity somewhere nearby. This is right in Vrindavan. And some devotees said, oh, yes, if you go over there to that temple over there, there's a beautiful Vrinda Devi there. So I went. It was the day before I left Braj on that particular visit, and indeed there is a beautiful deity of Vrinda Devi at the Rup Sanatan Mat. Um, and at that time, I met uh, Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Maharaj, who was then
Nanda Kishore.
Nanda Kishore. I was trying to remember which name he was at that particular in that particular chronology. And he said, "Oh, this is." I said, "Whose temple is this?" He says, "Oh, it's Narayan Maharaj's temple." And I was pretty ignorant, uh, still am, but ever more so back then. And I said, "Well, who is that?" And he told me the story of how Srila Gurudev had officiated at Prabhupada's Samadhi ceremony, and sang Sri Rupa Manjari Pada to Srila Prabhupada in his last moments. And I became really impressed by that and more curious to get to know Narayan Maharaj. Um, Nanda Kishore, aka Bhaktivedanta Tridandi, said, "Oh, well, he's coming to the West." And I said, "Well, okay, if he is, then here's my business card." Prabhupada told us that we should always open our doors as householders to visiting sadhus. So if you need a place, if you need a sponsor, or you need a place to stay, or some support in the organization, let me know. Um, so he was happy with that, and we said our goodbyes, and that was that. And perhaps about 4 months later, I received an email from him asking if I was still interested. Um, and I asked my wife, Pandita, what she thought. And she said, well, we don't really know who he is. Maybe you should get his birth details. And um, you can make the chart, and then we can know who we're actually inviting into our home if we invite him into our home. So I didn't mind asking, and it came back right away, and I made the chart. And I had my own experiences in making the chart. And when I said to Gurudev, when I first met him in my sitting room, that you're the astrologer, I knew that Gurudev was what an astrologer ideally should be, which is Trikalagya, someone who can see past, present, and future. And as I was doing his chart and writing it up, I became really overwhelmed by a sense of who this personality was. Um, so when I met him for the first time, I just approached him, and without really a proper introduction, I just said, I know who you are, and I know why you've come, and I want to serve you. So I want to give you my heart and do whatever you want with it. Um, at which point Gurudev got up and gave me a really big hug, and that started my adventure with him. But the date that you're talking about, when he asked me to say something, some of the things that I said, and they were quotes from the paper that I had written, talked about how Gurudev would not only translate really important literatures in addition to the scriptures that Srila Prabhupada had translated, but that Srila Gurudev would expound on the philosophy of bhakti of Gaudiya Vaishnavism in a way that he would reveal things that had been spoken about by Srila Prabhupada and written about by Srila Prabhupada, but he would reveal deeper understandings of these truths in a way that would expand everybody's understanding of the philosophy and practice of Krishna consciousness. I told that he would travel around the world many times. I think it was 33 times he traveled around the world. I described how he would be um, like a medicine for the devotees, that he would inspire them and be loved by them, and that he in turn would love them because he was, many ways you could say, the personification of compassion. Um, how he would inspire them and revive their spiritual life, and that ultimately, as a result of his influence, that the movement as a whole, and I mean the movement, the great movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, global movement, inaugurated by Mahaprabhu, carried on by all of our acharyas, and then spearheaded by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, how he would be a catalyst for deepening that movement and energizing that movement with new vigor and new life force, and that his arrival would be timely because it would bring about that revival, or that revival is maybe not the right word because it would suggest that there wasn't anything else going on. Renewal, perhaps, is a good word. That he would bring about that renewal prior to a time of very difficult time for the world, and that his teachings alongside of Srila Prabhupada's would last forever, because his teachings were, like Srila Prabhupada's, non-different from the teachings of Srila Rupa Goswami. As Prabhupada always said, I'm a Rupanuga. So those were some of the things that I talked about. I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, I said that he was or is an indomitable force, and that any opposition that he would meet would be alchemized, if that's the right word, transformed, transmuted from one of opposition to one of agreement and cooperation and support. And in many cases, we saw that. We saw devotees come into his association, perhaps a little skeptical at first, but who were then really won over by him and his behavior with them. In the cases where that didn't happen, the oppositional energy of the person would actually somehow lift up Srila Gurudev in terms of the public eye. And so when I was talking with different God brothers, I explained to them that I thought that, whether they understood it or not, the best way to deal with him would be to invite him in and make him feel welcome, and they would only be enhanced by his association. In the cases where that didn't happen, then we saw that the naysayers, their criticisms of him only lifted him higher in the eye of the public. I explained how many, many people would come to him, and especially a new generation of devotees, younger generation of devotees, would find a renewal in his association. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that I even said that, like Srila Prabhupada, Narayan Maharaj would um, empower the women in the movement to achieve the kinds of things that Prabhupada had always encouraged them to achieve, and which they did achieve over the years, but which in some cases they were not widely recognized their contribution. I'm trying to think of other things. I probably need some prompting. I don't know if you can remember anything else that I might have said.
I am very happy to hear everything that you. I remember that year was very special, 1996. It was the centennial year of Srila Prabhupada's appearance.
Yeah,
And I remember myself being part of a committee that was called the Centennial Committee that was organized globally. And there were many different departments in that committee. And one department was to anyhow assemble or create or uh, make arrangements that a group of devotees who would be very expert and dedicated to form a kirtan group to travel all over the world and re-inspire the devotees who had lost their enthusiasm.
okay.
Yeah.
See, I knew such a centennial celebration had been started, but I didn't realize that that was one of the implied
Yes.
purposes.
And I remember I was part of that committee. And then after we went traveling with Srila Gurudev in 1996, and we saw the effect of Srila Gurudev's association upon the devotees who had, like yourself and like many, who were kind of all not sure what is going to happen in the rest of their life in
Yeah,
terms of growth or nourishment in Krishna consciousness or bhakti. That Srila Gurudev ignited that again, that flame, that beautiful kind of touch that Srila Prabhupada gave from, him being present with amongst them, that Gurudev was creating that effect that they became re-inspired. Many devotees who had kind of lost their faith in the society, in the movement, because that were tough years in the 80s, for many of us. They
yeah,
were very tough. And then I was so happy inside when I saw the effect. And after coming back from our tour, I kind of felt uh, the satisfaction or the kind of the um, how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu had arranged that we were able to witness that effect. And that Gurudev is not just anyone, he is the first Siksha disciple of Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, starting in 1946, right when he joined the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Gaudiya mission, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. He met with Srila Prabhupada at that time. And then I felt like I should share this with the organizers of the Centennial Committee and just tell them how this is the greatest success of the centennial celebrations
God,
of
put him in the
Prabhupada.
front of the room.
Yes.
Well,
And
I think that after the fact, many devotees are talking about Srila Gurudev as the Prayojan Acharya,
Mhm.
and I really think that I remember the first time I heard him, asking, perhaps it was me, it was somebody else maybe, but well, why are you doing this? Why do you practice Krishna consciousness? What's the goal? What's the what's your destination? What do you hope for in doing your sadhana? and how he would explain that, without a fixed sadhya, without a fixed ambition in your spiritual life, that, that you couldn't really necessarily predict, or maybe you could, where you end up. And so I think that one of the things that he did for the devotees was not just to inspire them with all of his laughter, which is also one of the great things about Srila Gurudev, his sense of humor and his laughter and his sense of making you feel welcome, but he was able to kind of bring a new level of understanding into our practice that gave it new energy, that gave it new life. Oh, now I remember, and so many were affected in that way.
That is true. We were very lucky. And then you mentioned that you won the jackpot 2 times.
Yeah.
How did you feel that? What happened with you when you made that expression?
Yeah, well, you see, like I guess, I had an advantage, if you want to call it an advantage, that I knew something about astrology. So when I was reading Srila Gurudev's chart, actually my hair started standing on end when I was looking at it. And I became quite emotional. And I'm emotional, but not an openly emotional person. Um, but in that case, I became quite emotional and tearful, and I was convinced by the chart um, of what a significant personality Srila Gurudev is and would become. Um, and so, when I was sitting in front of him, I knew I had the conviction that, well, you know, I'm sitting in front of a historically great person, not just historically, but spiritually, uh, a very, very significant personality. Um, and so, and I knew from the chart all the different alankars, all the different attributes that he had that would demonstrate that to people. Um, and so I didn't need convincing um, in the sense of, oh, I have to read his books, or I actually even have to spend time with him, because I hadn't spent any time with him. I just had time with his chart. And so when I said, I've won the lottery twice, I mean, I feel, well, Srila Prabhupada saved my life. There's no question about that. Um, that in itself is a long, long story, but um, the loss, the disappearance of the spiritual master, Prabhupada writes about, I believe it's in the third canto. It's a crisis time, and that crisis time lingered for so many of us, um, and many of us, according to our abilities, we kept going, kept trying, um, but we couldn't replace Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, there was no alternative to Srila Prabhupada. There was no, how do I, Prabhupada apparently leaves. I think when the spiritual master leaves, you find a deeper relationship with the spiritual master even. But at that time, I think everybody was feeling quite vacant in Prabhupada's absence. And when I looked at Gurudev's chart, I had no doubt that this is a bosom buddy of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and he's coming to carry on the mission of Prabhupada.
Mm.
He's coming to, help all of us. Prabhupada had done so much, and there were so many of us. I mean, I don't know how many thousands, maybe 6,000 initiated disciples, perhaps, maybe more. And through the various twists of fate and Maya's influence, a lot of that had kind of dispersed in some ways, and there was no real central figure who had the gravitas to convince us. There were certainly some, like Gaur Govinda Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar, Dave Goswami Maharaj, and others, but they weren't in my life in the moment. And when I had a chance to have darshan of Gurudev, and I'm actually looking at the person that I had looked at through the lens of my charts, it became like a wish come true, really.
Mm.
Became like a dream that had manifested in front of me, and I became so completely convinced. I was already so completely convinced. I think that that was just an expression of really what I felt. That, I mean, how do you win the lottery twice? Can you imagine winning lottery? Well, here's 32 million pounds. Oh, and then sometime later somebody says, well, here's 64 million pounds. And you just have it, and it's just given to you, and you don't have to do anything about it. It just finds you. And that's how I felt. And from that, I thought, I need to really get behind this personality. And so I hooked up with you and Gopinath Prabhu and Tunga Vidya and Vrinda and who else was there, and just tried to lend a hand and bring out the good word.
Yeah, I remember that you at once uh, decided I will travel with this personality because there was no such other kind of need to. There was not like an order, you do this, you do that. No, he just left it completely upon us to decide.
Yeah,
And we were thinking, well, come on. And then you gathered Sita Thakurani. I remember she
yeah,
started traveling with us.
yeah,
You were with us. And we made this whole tour happening 1996. And wherever we went, the urge or the need of the day was at once embraced. Yeah, sometimes we had to deal with challenges. You remember that? We can go on and on like that, which is reminding me that let us continue, for another episode because this is really interesting. This is really interesting.
yeah. I think the timing of it was, um, it couldn't have been more perfect, really.
Oh, that
You
was
know,
like the
it, it,
perfect thing.
and that's of course, like if you talk about, well, what is the art of Vedic astrology about? It's all about time, and it's all about timing. And when things come to their ripened stage, things happen. The Lord makes things happen, for a reason. Yeah, I went into debt. I spent thousands of thousands of pounds buying air tickets I couldn't afford, and my wife and children, leave them behind temporarily. And but I just had that conviction, and maybe part of it was selfish. I just didn't want to not have his association, because as soon as you met him, you thought, oh my God, this really is the real deal, you know.
Yeah, I remember Gurudev would share with me on different occasions that whoever wants to be with me, he said, I never send them away, never ever. He said, even disease, he said, when disease, because they find something in me which is very tasty, very attractive. He said, I cannot send anyone away, he said. Yeah. very beautiful.
And you know, and there was a very deeply mystical part of Gurudev's influence on so
Yeah.
many persons, you know, like so many come he read my mind. He knew what I needed. He immediately addressed all of my doubts. I mean, you know, in all kinds of, you know, ways that you thought, okay, okay, another one, another one, another one, another one, another one. And I think that that's one of the reasons why, despite any criticism that might have been out there, it just kind of spread like wildfire that, you know, go and see this person. And, you know, it really was magical just being in his presence. I mean, I remember sitting with him at the airport one time and just sitting right side by side with him, and he put his hand on my hand. We were holding hands in San Francisco airport. And I, you know, I don't want to go into the details of what my experience was, but like my inner experience of awareness, spiritual awareness, was catapulted to a completely different place than I'm used to. I'm used to the modes of nature, you
Mm.
know. And I
I,
think so, and so many people had the same or similar kinds of experiences.
I remember that he was very personal with everyone.
Everyone.
And I remember that he requested you. He never made it a point like I order you. He said, I am requesting you to look after my devotees. You remember that?
Mm.
And no matter what happens, that was like your very special, personal, I would say, like, yeah, permanent service, yeah, to help whoever needed help, whoever would knock on your door, help them and encourage them in bhakti. That brings me to the, yeah, we would like to hear something from you about how you brought or you were instrumental in bringing Yashodananda Prabhu to Gurudev and how you looked after him in many, many ways and you encouraged him and sided with him and served with him. And I think that that would be very nice to hear. And if you would be willing to share something with us. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's never really occurred to me, but there's a kind of an echo of my experience in meeting Srila Gurudev with my experience in meeting Yashodananda Prabhu, because um, Yashodananda Prabhu was, if you're familiar with the organization, he was him and his wife, Ananga Mohini, Ananga Manjari, Ananga Mohini or Ananga Manjari, I can't remember.
Anagamoyini.
Ananga Mohini, yeah, thank you. Um, they were they were some of the biggest salespeople for this landmark forum, which is a personal development kind of organization. And Jagan Mohan Prabhu, who is now Jagan Mohan Swami, Bhaktabandha Jagan Mohan Swami, he met Yasoda then, who was then Jaunty, in the West End of London in Soho, and Jaunty tried to sell him a landmark education self-development package.
Oh, that would be good for Yagesh.
And of course, then Jagan Mohan tried to sell uh, Yasodanandan, Ben Jaunty, you know, some kind of self-development package related to bhakti yoga.
Right.
So they struck up something of a friendship right away. And he says, "Well, how do I get in touch with you?" And he says, "Well, I'm couch surfing. I don't have any place to stay. Uh, Take this guy's business card and call him up because he'll know wherever I am whenever you want to get a hold of me." And that was my business card.
Mm, mm.
So I don't remember, I don't know how long it was before he called me, probably knowing Yasodananda, not very long at all. But I got a call one day and I'm living with my family up in Aberdeen, Scotland, and high up in Scotland. And uh, I was very bored that day. Um, I remember it was a rather wintry day. And uh, so because I was bored, when I received the call, I did a chart to see who was that was calling me.
You can do that. You can do that.
Well, not. I mean, I don't know that I'll get his national insurance number and all that, but I mean, I'll get a sense of the person.
Right.
Like, well, where are they coming from? Are they well intended? Are they, do they have good motives or whatever? And because I was bored, decided to entertain myself by talking to him about who he was. And I said, talked about, his mother and his this, and you're into business and you're doing, and his mind couldn't deal with it. He thought, how did you do that? Right. So he said, where are you? And I said, I'm in Scotland. He said, I'm coming up there. I'll be there tomorrow.
Wow, wow.
Something like that, like, or maybe in a couple days or something. And I believe his Ananga Mohini came with him, if I remember correctly. Or maybe not, but anyway, he drove up all the way, which is a long drive from Bath. It's about
But
eight hours.
he couldn't drive, so he needed a driver. Yeah. So maybe Ananga came
He
with him.
probably needed a driver because I've had any number of near-death experiences with him at the wheel. So um, he was not. He was such a bad driver that he didn't follow any of the rules at all. I remember one time he just, instead of following the street, the way the street turned in a particular way, it's like, so he wanted to get from here to here, and that would have meant he had to go this way and then up and then that way. But there was a sidewalk, a pedestrian sidewalk between him and going. So he just went over that.
Hmm.
He thought, nah, I'm just going to go there quickly. So yeah, he was a menace on the street, and he would admit that as well. Anyway, so he came up and we started talking, and I then did his real chart and could see a lot from that, and could see that he was very educated, he was successful, he had started his own successful business, and I got in my conversation from him, that he had been to Cambridge and he'd come from an upper class Jewish family, and that he was an intellectual and so on and so on. But he was very interested in what I talked about, which was about Vedic astrology, Vedic knowledge, mysticism, bhakti yoga, and so on. So he said, I really want to learn about this. And then I said, no, you don't. Not really, because one of our teachers, one of our acharyas in the line of this ancient parampara tells us that if you really care about your family and your business and your friendship and society, then don't go and try to find out about these things, because you're probably going to lose everything and everything's going to change. And I told him, I said, you're going to step on a magic carpet thinking that you're going to go where you want to go, but the magic carpet's going to take you to places you can't even imagine. Said, now I really need to find out. And not long after that, I moved the family down to Bath, and I started working with him and helping him with his English teddy bear company, and um, yeah, talking about all these different subjects. And one day he came, I remember the day, he came to the house and he said, uh, I want to go with you to India. And I said, well, okay. Um, I said, but you know, you got to do whatever I do. So I'm not going to try to explain India to you because that's not going to work. You're going to have to just go and experience India for yourself. I said, but whatever I do, you have to do. So um, I said, if I stand on my head in a puddle of water, I'm thinking in my mind like I'm paying obeisances or something in the mud. Then you have to do that too. And I said, just have the experience. And when we go back to England, um, you can ask me any question you want. You can challenge whatever you did. You can express whatever criticism you want. But while we're there, you're just going there as an acolyte. You're going there as someone who just wants to have an experience. Um, so he said, okay. And so we went and we stayed in an ashram near Fogel Ashram. His name I can't remember now. But it was, yeah, it was pretty austere. He would stay up at night writing poetry, all very heart-based poetry about how he was feeling being in the land of Krishna. And he would wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning to read me his poetry. Um, One day we're walking along where our routine was to walk from there, which was on Bhaktivedanta Swami Marg, yeah, near Fogel Ashram, all the way into go to Mangalarti at Radharaman Temple. And after which we would go and have darshan of Srila Prabhupada in his rooms. There was a devotee there who, the most kind-hearted, soft-hearted person I think I've ever met. And he would come out and feed us Mahaprasadam from Radha Damodar and from Srila Prabhupada every time we went. So we went there every day. That was our routine, going Radha Ramanji and then Srila Prabhupada and then off in the day. And Yashodananda said to me one day, he says, I can't believe it, but I think I've lost my ego. I think my ego is completely melted. It's not anywhere near me. And I said, well, don't worry about it because it'll be back in a few days and you'll be back to normal. He started laughing. We had that kind of a relationship. And then I think it was, did he meet Savitri? Perhaps. Met one of Gurudev's,
Vita,
who was it?
Savita, I think.
Savita, that's what I meant to say. Yeah, Savita, not Savitri. Savita. And she started talking about the philosophy. She went in hard,
Well,
right?
that's Savita, yeah.
Like, you know, what are you doing? Wasting your life, you're gonna die, like that. And so somehow or another, we made the connection um, with Srila Gurudev through her. And
that time you also didn't know about Gurudev. No.
Somewhat. I had darshan of Gurudev when my daughter Sudevi was 1 year old. and we ended up in Mathura Math,
Yeah.
sitting at Gurudev's lotus feet. And I only remember one thing because we had a baby in tow and we were just living in a baby bubble, even though we were in Vrindavan. And Gurudev leans forward and he says, "Well, how's your bhajan?" And I said, "Well, you know, what bhajan? Yeah. Um, anyway, we had lots of adventures together. Very smart guy. One of the most interesting qualities about him is he took his incredible positivity. Um, if he could think of something, he could do it.
Right.
Not necessarily, he wouldn't necessarily succeed, but the point is, if he could think of it, he could do it in his mind. You know, he knew he had that kind of conviction, and he was able to infect everybody else around him with the same belief. Right. So, like, if he thinks he could do something, then, well, why can't you also do it? And I think that that was one of the most memorable qualities about him that I can mention.
I
When he came,
remember when we came to Bath, to your ashram in 1996, you brought them,
yeah,
and I think we visited their home, and they took an initiation at that time. I remember, huh? Both
yeah,
of them.
yeah, yeah, he was very enthusiastic. Um, he just dived, he was somebody that just dived into whatever. There was nothing to hold him back. Life was not anything other than a great opportunity for him. And by that time, he had heard enough about the philosophy from me, um, that, you know, he had some toehold into it. And with Gurudev and with my conviction about Gurudev, he just went for it. As did many of the devotees that lived in Bath or around Bath at that time. You know, like Krishna Kanta and Yogamaya and
This is
Jagmohan. You know,
uh, just for the audience. Krishna Kanta. He is the son of Haley Mills, Miss Haley Mills, huh?
yeah,
And his name is Crispian Mills, and he is I think one of the founders of Kulashek,
yeah.
Kulashek,
He's the lead singer and guitarist of Kula Shaker.
who is a very well-known
Yeah,
music band in Europe, and they sing about the philosophy actually, and the names of Krishna. They come and they attract a great audience all over Europe and East Asia, I think. Japan, a very nice, beautiful soul also, as well as Yoga Maya. I remember how you
I have
were
two.
helping them also to take shelter with Srila Gurudev. Yeah.
Yeah, and Haley, his mom met Srila
Yes.
Gurudev.
Yes, yes.
You know, Gurudev went to their house and stayed. I think you stayed there a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, we spent some time there. Yeah. You met many influential people. I remember one lady in Malaysia also, Miss
Oh yeah, Lady Davies. Yeah,
Mary Day.
yeah.
But back to your Yashodananda, I wish we could hear more from you about him because both you and him, you were teaming up, supporting in beautiful way the development of Srila Gurudev's and Prabhupada's teachings, Mahaprabhu's teachings about pure bhakti. And I was also witness of that. And I think there are many memories with you about Yashodananda.
I think the one indicator of if you have something to say about somebody is, do you only have, um, you know, were things always pleasant?
Mm.
And anybody who's had a relationship with a brother knows that brotherly relationships don't always go as smoothly as you want them to. But the fact is that and that's certainly the case for me and Yashodananda. But with Gurudev's help and love, we overcame whatever misunderstandings we had, and yeah, up until recently, we would talk regularly
Mm.
about all kinds of things, philosophy, society, politics, whatever, but especially philosophy. He was always really interested in, which is not always the case. At first, he was kind of a little bit selective, but as the years went on, he became really immersed in bhakti yoga philosophy.
Yeah, I remember that we would talk regularly also. And I remember one of the last talks we had, he would ask about the different definitions of Mahabhav, like Modanakya, Mohanakya, Madanakya. And he would ask, what is the difference between Madhurya and Shringaras and all these. And he would do that with many. I think with Prem Prayojan Prabhu, he would regularly communicate, and very amazing how he became fascinated and inspired to go deeper into the philosophy. Yeah, very nice. I think Buddha Prabhu for today, let us end with a sweet kind of last few words, and let us make another episode next week if possible. We continue to hear from you about what you what are your sweet memories, and whatever memories I can also fill in here and there, what we remembered about Yashodananda Prabhu, his special relationship with us and with Srila Gurudev, and his beautiful qualities as unrelentless
Hmm.
enthusiasm and positive energy that he brought. I remember so many beautiful moments that we shared with him. Yeah, going to visit his house, and nothing was impossible. Yeah. We just had so much, we felt so much at home and accommodated and welcomed. Yeah, always.
He had a big heart.
Big
Okay,
heart.
so my closing words will maybe be a place, maybe suggest something that we could pick up about him the next time we talk. Um, I think he is a very good example. There were many of Gurudev's disciples that would fit this description, but he especially was a very good example of somebody who really was able to embody Srila Gurudev's personalism
Mm.
in the way he dealt with everybody. He, he really was there for a lot of people. And a lot of times he was there for them when they didn't have anybody else.
Mm.
So, I think of Srila Gurudev and I think of him in that way. And we could talk about him and other devotees like him that embodied that quality of Gurudev, always caring about people.
Yeah, he had such a special relationship with Gurudev. I felt like Gurudev empowered him to emphasize this
Hmm.
beautiful teaching, that person before project. Yeah.
Yeah.
He would always find out how he can integrate with the person in a way that is encouraging, that is full with empathy and full with,
Hmm.
like, what is the way we can energize personal exchange, a personal sharing, and a friendship. Yeah, that was I remember how he was always worried how we can elevate our ability to communicate and to interact with each other as persons, rather than get the job done. Yeah, whatever
Yeah,
needs to be.
you met your good friend Dilip through him,
Yeah.
because they were working on similar ways. I guess um, you could say, like Gurudev, he always started out with the question, "Who are you?"
Yes.
Yeah, not what can you do for me or what can you do for this or that, but who are you? And he would try to adapt himself and create a relationship with you based on who you are.
Yeah, that is a very famous and important aspect of spiritual life. That who are you should transform into how are you. Yeah. Same letters, who and how. When you become friends, real friends, then how are you? What is bothering you? What is your challenge? And he was very good at that, very good at to penetrate and to connect with the heart. And I think that that is Gurudev empowered all of his followers to endeavor to enter into friendship. Yeah, I remember Srila Gurudev would always say that I just want to be your friend. Yeah, so,
Thank you for giving me the chance to remember Srila Gurudev and say some glories of Yashodananda Prabhu. I appreciate it.
I also am very happy that we have this opportunity, and I look forward for next week. We will sit again and continue our sharing, remembering of Sri Yashoda, and inevitably we will hear the glories of Gurudev, the impact that Gurudev has upon the lives of those who took and are still now at this moment, yeah,
Mm.
coming in that and take shelter in the Anugatya of Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Today also we are observing his appearance day. These are yeah, our well-wishers, our eternal well-wisher, our eternal guardians, and they teach us personalism, yeah, away from the dark past wherein we couldn't even recognize what a person is, yeah, or what to speak, who we are, yeah. So now, no.
It's interesting. I'm just thinking that there really is only one Yasodanandan Prabhu, and yet, if I think of all of Gurudev's disciples and followers, there are so many of his caliber. Gurudev really attracted people of a very high caliber, I think.
Definitely.
So we can always just go on talking about all of them, and
Yes, I told that that is the best thing to do throughout our life, yeah,
yeah.
to glorify the devotees and through them glorify the real soul that is Sri Krishna, Sri Radha, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and especially Sri Guru. How we, without Sri Guru, there is no improvement for the living entity. Yeah. So thank you so much, Buddha Prabhu, and we look forward to have your association again and remembering again Srila Gurudev, Srila Prabhupada, our Guru Parampara, especially today, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I am very grateful to have you as my friend and well-wisher, and that I was allowed to be with you for so many years now in an amazing journey, astonishing journey. And we'll continue next week with our podcast for all the devotees who are viewing this. They're already asking me, when is your next podcast? You want to hear? So I'm sure we continue next week and hear more. And in the meantime, we can just bounce a little bit, some questions and some
Great.
maybe suggestions. Right? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Haribol.
Hare
Vanchakalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubheva patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Shri Gurudev ki jai.
Jai Prabhupada.
Yashodananda Das Prabhu ki jai.
Jai,
Rajanath Das Prabhu ki jai. Go
jai.
Pranati Hari Hari Bol.
All Pramananda, Hari Hari Bol.